So
Mhm.
step number one is you're uncovering the root cause of the problem. Why are you unconsciously protecting yourself from something you obviously want and need? This is a big one. You're not a failure. You're very, very successful at protecting yourself from what you want. And that could ultimately kill you. But there's always a very good reason or reasons behind it, or you wouldn't be doing it. So we want to uncover the root cause. And the root cause of money problems is never actually money. It's not change your money story, change your life, which is a great slogan, but it doesn't work. It's what money represents: love, worth, and safety.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the Rebel Love podcast. Today I'm speaking with Morgana Rae, an international bestseller, author, speaker, and seven-figure mentor coach for 27 years, putting love first to build wealth and impact. A favorite guest on television, radio, and print, Morgana has guided thousands of entrepreneurs, innovators, healers, and humanitarians to heal the rift between heart, spirit, and money to save the world as only they can. Welcome, Morgana. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you.
I'm really happy to have you here today because we're going to talk about some very exciting stuff. And the first thing is how to attract money like a lover.
Yes. Well, first we start with the money we have. And if you're like where I started, money was not a good lover, shall we say. Money was my relationship with money was more like that awful boyfriend who cheats on you, leaves you, and tells you that it's your fault. And you're just holding on because you think it's the best you can get. And that is a horrible relationship with money. So that's not the kind of love that or lover that we're talking about here. That's actually what we want to just like you need to get rid of the bad boyfriend to make space for the good one. We need to get rid of the old relationship with money to have a relationship with money worthy of our deepest respect and admiration and trust with someone who wants to be with us. And this time we're going to make that someone your relationship with money.
Nice, nice. All right. So before we jump too far into it, I want to know a little bit about you. Tell us your story and how you ended up here and how your this boyfriend relationship with money started. Let's go from there.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just like the biggest cosmic joke that I've been this international wealth coach for the last 20 years because it's not what I set out to do. And it really kind of evolved out of being so spectacularly terrible and failing at everybody else's solution and program, whether it was mindset or spiritual or vision boards, all the law of attraction stuff. I'm just like big L on my forehead. I failed it. And I'm a good student. And I also, graduated from a great school, had half a dozen coaching certifications, mountains of testimonials, celebrity clients. And at my like worst point, people with addictions talk about hitting bottom. So this was like my money bottom. I was living in Los Angeles, one of the most expensive cities in the world, and I was struggling to make $100 a month, which is crazy,
Yeah.
crazy because I had like I had movie star clients. I had all these testimonials. I had the marketing. I was taking all the classes and I was getting the results and I was good at the marketing and I was taking the classes in sales and I was this good student. And I got to say that I exist to demonstrate that you can do everything right and fail like completely if what's going on inside of you, if there's something inside of you that is blocking what you want. So there's the idea of we've got the conscious mind where we take all the classes and we do everything we're supposed to be doing. La da da. This is where we have the mindset, where we do all of our New Year's resolutions. I'm going to lose weight, all the stuff that doesn't stick. And then we have below the surface, most of which we don't even know about. So it's not your fault, but only you can change it. I had a teacher many years ago who would say, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. And I love that because it gives you power. And so if consciously I'm pursuing a goal, but I'm not getting the results after prolonged, consistent effort, and I'm still not getting the results, whether it's money or love or weight loss or whatever, something is going on beneath the surface. And it's that unconscious stuff that really gets our results because it's 24/7 and it never rests and we don't even know what's going on. I once had somebody ask me, who decides where the ship goes, the captain or the crew? I thought the captain, and I was wrong. Because if the captain wants to go to Tahiti, but the crew wants to go to France, the ship is going to France because the crew is what really operates the ship. So that's like the crew is the subconscious. And what we need to do is we need to get the crew on board and aligned with the captain's vision, which is our conscious mind. So in my case, Ivy League education, all these coaching credentials and skills and testimonials and like all this stuff that's supposed to be success. And back to beginning of 2003, just barely one not great client $100 a month. And I had just finished taking this class on overcoming sales objections. And that was supposed to be the holy grail for me. The clouds open up and the, light comes down. That was gonna solve it. And honestly, like every class I took was gonna solve the problem. The problem though was that I came along with the problem. And so I was such a good student and I learned all the scripts that they teach you for when somebody says, oh, I can't afford it, or I want to, but I don't have time, or whatever. By the way, today, I don't really believe in overcoming objections because if, somebody wants to say no, let them say no. But at the time, I was trying to learn how to sell. And I was so good at overcoming objections that 7 times in a row, people said they were going to hire me. And 7 times in a row, those people didn't show up to the first session or pay me. And it was that 7th stand up, like, you get all dressed up, all dolled up, go across town for that blind date who doesn't show up. That's what it feels like. And they didn't show up. And that was it. I just ran out of my last trace of hope. I think I'd been on fumes longer than I knew. And I was just out of it. Like, what else is there to do? I did everything my coaches told me to do. I did everything every class told me to do. I got results. I was really good at what I did. Like, every client described me as magical because results, that's my thing. And it didn't matter. And I felt like the universe hated me, like I'd been tricked. Finally, I knew what I was supposed to do in this lifetime, and I couldn't make a living at it. And I was simultaneously very, very judgy. So I discovered that I could feel better than other coaches and worse than them at the same time because I might get better results, but they're making a living like a grown-up and I'm not. So I had that horrible shame. And, it's also really icky going, hey, I can help you with your life when you aren't even making a living. Another layer of shame. And so I was just in a really, really black place. Like I remember the day and pulling the curtains, those blackout curtains in my bedroom of my little tiny 1-bedroom apartment, and getting on my bed and just screaming and wailing and crying and until I was just out, just tears of rage and grief and hurt and disappointment and panic, because I did not know what I could do that I hadn't done. And when I cried myself out, and it's like, just sinking to the bottom of the pool. And that's actually a good place to be, because it's when you hit the bottom that you have something you can push against. And when I hit bottom, I heard two ideas in the back of my head. And one of them was this suggestion that maybe money needed to be my next area of spiritual growth. A disclaimer, this does not have to apply to you. I live in Southern California. Spirituality is really, really easy for us here. So it's like, spirituality is easy. Money is something I'm struggling with. Maybe if I put it in the spiritual column, I can trick myself into having a better financial experience. So that was the first one. And the second was, I got curious about what was going on inside of me that couldn't be with money, because it frankly didn't make sense and something wasn't adding up. And it was in that sort of toxic stew of like misery and self doubt and disappointment and hating the universe and being hated by the universe and not really wanting to be alive and being hopeless and also being curious, that I had my next coaching session. And the most amazing thing happened. I had had this lovely coach for months, and I would do everything he told me to do. And then we'd be like scratching our heads, looking at my results going, so why didn't it work? Which is not a reflection on him. And he had this, who knows where it came from, moment of weirdo inspiration. On our next call, he just paused and he asked me first, what happened with money for you growing up? And I thought of stuff that I hadn't thought of in decades. Family fights, people not talking to each other, just stuff like that, that I was a child and didn't know it affected me. I actually had an inheritance stolen from me. And I made a decision, or at least that's how it was characterized. An argument could be made, but I made a very healthy decision at the time when I was 12 that I'm going to let the grown-ups deal with this. There's nothing I can do about it. And I love everybody involved. So I'm going to choose love, which by the way,
how old were you?
I was 12.
Okay.
And the people involved were the people I loved most. So, and it's way, way too much for a 12-year-old to process, way too much nuance. And so that was a good decision at the time. But another decision that I was making that I didn't know that I was making that totally shaped my life moving forward was the decision that money got in the way of love.
Interesting.
And right. And my default is always love. That's just what I choose and how that's my thing.
So it was one or the other.
Right. And so that was a light bulb, but that wasn't what changed my life. That was like, oh, that's interesting. But it wouldn't have worked if I hadn't already been in such a on the verge of suicide pit of shame and despair. I was, by the way, the person who is listening, who's in a bad place, it's such an advantage for the process that I teach. It's not that I want you to be in a bad place, but it's the motivation is already there. The neurology is already lit up, and a much shorter distance to pivot and have a dramatic change when you're in that place of fear and lack and despair. So no, I don't want you to be there, but if you are there, congratulations, you get to use it. So the real change happened right after that. And the change that just set my life on a totally new course was he asked me, this is the weird question. The last one, not weird. This one, weird. He asked me, Morgana, if your money was a person, who would your money be? Huh? And instantly I saw the person. Instantly. And I'm not a visualizer. I'm the worst at guided visualizations. If you tell me to go down by the river, to visualize a river, I will spend the next 45 minutes trying to decide which river, where are the trees and all that kind of stuff. So, but for this, if money were a person, who would your money be? I saw him. He was this big, scary, dirty, violent biker dude, bald with really long sideburns and the wife beater shirt with the tattoos. And there was just something mean about him that scared me. And I could feel it in my whole body. And what I was really hyper aware of was the sense that if I were at a live event with this guy, I would have my eye on him all the time to keep maximum distance. And it was that was the moment that my financial situation suddenly made sense for the first time in my life. Of course, it didn't matter what I did, how much time, money, heart I invested, did not matter, because on the deepest level of me, I was watching money 24/7 to create maximum distance. And that was always going to win. And there was no way that I could let money in my life if it was that guy. He was what he was. That wasn't going to change. And the only way forward was to get rid of him.
Yeah, wow.
Which creates a new problem, because I live in Los Angeles and I just got rid of my relationship with money, right?
How did you survive on $100 a month? Something's not computing for me.
Debt, credit cards, borrowing.
Right.
Ugh. It's like the worst of the worst.
Yeah, that's a lot of debt. That would have been really, really tough.
Yeah. And I had odd jobs here and there, but it was just sad. It was just unfair. It didn't make sense. It also changed really fast, and I will get to that.
Yeah.
You have a question on your face.
Yeah. Before we get there, how long were you in that position where you're surviving on credit and $100 a month?
I was there for years.
Wow. Okay.
I don't remember how many. It wasn't always $100 a month. It was just, it would grow up a little bit, but not anywhere near what it needed to be. And then it would shrink.
Okay. All right. Wow.
So 100 was the worst. That was that was just because I'd had lots of clients either for free or really, really, really cheap.
Right.
But here's the way I see it now is the universe, I like to call it the universe with a capital U. You might call it God or something, but I call it the universe likes to get our attention primarily through three teachers: money, love, and health. And money can include, jobs and stuff like that, career, but money, love, and health. And money gets our attention faster than any of the others. So if money is your teacher, congratulations, because you can go a really long time with some, if it's not acutely painful, or, you can go a really long time with, an unhappy love life. I went 45 years.
Oh no, that's
but you can't go any time you can go a very short distance without money, because it affects your relationships. It affects your health. It just affects everything.
Yeah.
So it really gets your attention. So when it gets that loud, It's like really getting my attention. So I think that's what needed to happen to get me in the place where this change could happen. That's how I see it now. I was a religion major back a million years ago of Smith College, East Coast, United States. And I love the god Shiva, the god of death and destruction, mostly because I was trying to break up with the boy at the time. And but there's this image of dancing Shiva. I can't remember the Sanskrit name anymore, but he's like, leg up and bunch of arms and one foot on this little person, which is us. And he's essentially dancing on our back so that we will let go of our ignorance and all of the things that we hold on to for dear life that make us miserable. And so this pressure of life dancing on our back has this premise of it actually being out of love and compassion and for us, not to us. And so I really like to look at it sort of as money wanted to get my attention for me. And because I wasn't listening, it had to get loud enough and frustrating enough that I was ready for this thing that was supposed to come through me that would become what I do in the world. So I got rid of the biker. Yay. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Who replaced the biker?
Well, that created a problem because I don't know if you have ever been in a super toxic relationship that you finally got out of. And you're totally not excited about jumping into one of those again.
Yeah. You want to heal. You need to collect yourself.
I am going to spend the next 5 years reading romance novels.
Living in a fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah. Just safe. But I didn't have that option with money. So I had to think to myself, okay, so who could I want in my life so much? Who would be so wonderful and safe and lovable that I would want this person so much, even if it was money? Not because, but I would, consider having a relationship, somebody so fabulous that I would tolerate that this person is also money. And as soon as I was thinking that way, who could I want so much? Again, I was just like on a spontaneous visualization roll that day. Boom, I saw the guy. And he was super cute, clean cut, romantic, wearing a tuxedo and carrying a bouquet of red flowers because he was wooing me as if we were going to the opera, like he was dressed for the opera. And I just remember looking at him thinking, oh my God, he's so cute. And this is so weird. Like the idea that money wanted to be with me is not anything I'd ever experienced before. This feeling that money wanted to be with me, and not only wanted to be with me, but loved me, like really genuinely loved me. And it felt so personal. And I also had this sudden sense that he had been there forever, wanting to be with me. And I was cruelly pushing him away all those years, treating him like a monster, sort of like dating the bad boy when he wanted to be there. And so there was, not only did he feel different and yummy and safe and nothing like money, did not feel at all like money. He felt like love. But I also felt my power in the relationship. And this is really, really important. You have the body, you have the power. I am not teaching the secret where you sit on a couch and you think about piles of gold and it magically falls in your lap, because that doesn't evolve you. This is a partnership. And this is something really important. Is so The reason I like, because I've coached thousands of people and we've tried a lot of weird stuff, especially in the early days. And I found that a lover relationship tends to work best in terms of like healing your wounds, healing how you feel about yourself. Healing romantic relationships is also a super nice side benefit, and also bringing in the biggest bucks. There's something about the vulnerability of a lover, your money honey's vulnerability. He or she or they, pick your pronoun. It works. I use he because mine was, but it doesn't have to be a he. The equality of lovers is really, really important. We don't want to make your money honey God, because God is way up there. I even have a recording somewhere of myself coaching. I think it's like the transcript, I think, is in my ebook, but I was coaching a woman whose first iteration of her money honey was Jesus. So I asked her if it was a sexy Jesus.
What did you say?
She said, not really. So she came back with Antonio Banderas, and that worked a lot better.
Yeah.
Because you can get closer to Antonio, you know?
Also, she already has a relationship with Jesus, so I'm sure that it's different, right?
It's different. You get to have both. You get to have both.
Exactly.
They can team up.
Yes, they're friends.
Yeah. Because the thing about your money honey is your money honey is by definition going to share your values. If you want to save the world, your money honey is like, yeah, let's do that. So I had my money honey, the cute guy, and I could feel how much he wanted to be with me, which again was like, wow, why didn't I know this my whole life? Right. And I could also feel the responsibility of how I've been pushing him away forever. And so I said to him, what do you need from me so you can be with me? Which presupposes that, one, your money honey wants to be with you, and two fingers, that it's up to you, that you have the power. So it's really useful when money is a person, and a person you like, who really wants to be with you and loves you more than anybody in the world. Because when you talk, you can have a conversation. And in my experience, maybe you think it, maybe you speak it, maybe you write it. But I find that the answer, and to this day, I find the answer comes back so quick and soft that I can totally pretend I didn't hear it or feel it or see it. And it's just practice. It's a muscle. It's a great intuition hack, because your money honey is looking at you as your truest self, your best self, more powerful and more cool than you see yourself, doesn't have your baggage and your neuroses and nonsense. And so you can really get some great information and surprising information, but it's always rooted in love. If you can tell the difference between your money honey and your money monster, and I usually don't remember to say this, but I'm just feeling it today. The money honey feels expansive, makes you bigger. So let's say you're like, sometimes my money honey will just give me a little kick, like, I want you to do that thing you've been putting off. You know what I'm talking about. But it doesn't have that bad, you're not good enough, kind of shame, contraction. When something has contraction and it doesn't feel loving, that's a money monster. And over time, you may even notice that, oh, my money honey is feeling like a money monster. Well, that tells you just, okay, it's time to do it over. You have a new money honey who wants to come in.
So you can just replace your money honey if he or she or they start getting a bit cranky pants on you.
Oh yeah. I coached this guy, Chris Clavio, a gazillion years ago. I can name him because he gave me permission. And he showed up and his money honey just was like so bitchy to him and made him feel so not good enough. And I said to him, Chris, that's not a money honey. That is a money monster in a cute dress.
Right.
And you have to get rid of her.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had started over. And then he had a new money honey who really, really loved him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And he made $10,000 immediately.
So
Yeah.
let me ask you, when you had this concept of your money honey coming in and you had this kind of realization, how quickly after you got together
I love that.
Did things start shifting for you financially?
Okay, so first of all, things shifted immediately on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really important because sometimes people come to me with extremely dramatic circumstances. And it looks different when you look at the same stuff with your money honey, because you've shifted. And instead of operating reactive, we make really bad decisions when we make decisions based on fear. Whether we have nothing or we have billions, because I've coached both extremes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a final step after the conversation is the sixth step. I haven't broken it down. I haven't told you the steps yet, and I'll do that. But the final piece is, so my money honey told me he wanted me to love him and stop treating him like a monster.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, when I talk about loving money, I'm talking about love. I'm not talking about greed or avarice or exploitation or scarcity. I'm talking about love which is generous and expansive and kind and noble. And there's almost this bounty of abundance where you're selfless, where you're just loving to be loving. And you love this person, not over people, but you love this person because he, she, or they is a person who loves you. Mm-hmm. Very different. So skipping to the final step, we made a deal because it's like, okay, stop treating him like a monster. What does that look like? And I thought, oh, when clients want to hire me and they ask me how I work, which is code for what do you charge? It only took me a gazillion years to figure that out. And I would get like, and all the guilt and shame would come up to be charging somebody because I didn't want to hurt anybody. And I felt like, you shouldn't charge to help people, which is ridiculous because that implies you should only charge to hurt people. I made an agreement. It was like somebody would ask me, what do you charge? And I'd be like, oh, don't look at this stinking monster that I don't want you to know I have. So instead, I made a deal that next time he brought me a gift, which looks like a potential client, I would say thank you. And I would have the energy of thank you when I stated my fee.
I love that.
So in answer to your question, the next day, 4 people out of the blue, and I didn't do anything different, but 4 people out of the blue contacted me and wanted to hire me. And I could feel everything in me wanting to like shove a sample session down their throat or talk them out of it or anything. And I just had to, money honey, cute guy. Let's not be that jerk. Let's be loving. Let's be nice. Thank you. This is my fee. And then I did the most challenging thing in the world, which was then I shut up, which is like probably the most ninja sales skill there is to shut up.
Yeah. That's so true.
When they get silent, they're just figuring out how to do it, how to pay it, and just shut up and let the person make the decision they want to make. Your people will know they're your people.
Yes, that's very true. And did
so
they say yes?
Thank you.
Did they
So
say
what?
yes? Did they
They
say
said
yes?
all of them said yes. They hired me for double what I had ever charged before. They kept coming, kept coming. I started group programs and I had waiting lists, and I have literally made millions of dollars since then. And no, I don't make $100 a month. I make a lot more. I charge a lot more. And and even my fees are this evolving process of, wow, this is stretchy, but this feels right. If I'm comfortable, it feels right, until it no longer feels right. And then we stretch some more. But it's always about integrity. It's always about agreement with my money honey. Sometimes we negotiate, and just having those conversations, just like I have my conversations with my husband, how we don't just say I love you once and never again. It's a dynamic relationship, just like a real human being. And you want to check in, because here's a secret is, if you love your money honey, you want your money honey to be happy. And here's the thing that will make your money honey happier than anything else: your happiness. So decisions that respect you, that love you, that exalt you, that nurture you, that nourish you, are gonna turn your money honey on. It's not a bad deal.
Okay, so let's talk. I love this. I love this. Let's talk about some different ways, like one after another, of how we turn our money honey on. And let me just get this straight. When you're quoting your price to somebody, you say it with the energy of thank you. Like
I say it with the energy of, like, isn't he cute? It's just coming from the place of love. Love and integrity are my highest values. I mean, I had to make my money honey a cute guy just to have him in my life. And I still come from the place of, I only want to work with people who I can help.
Yeah.
And so, by the way, there's a really interesting, and I'm going off on a tangent, but it's coming in and you can't stop me. But there's this interesting thing that happens when you raise your fees. If you're, one of those do-gooder people helper types, the fear of hurting somebody or ripping somebody off is so great that it motivates you to become even better than you were before. It inspires you to show up and make sure that the investment is worth it. And by the way, that's a good thing. People who, are undercharging and worrying about overcharging, I love you, because you're coming from a place of integrity, and that's a good thing. And what if undercharging is just as out of integrity as overcharging? Whoa, mind blowing.
Yep.
But people can feel it. People can feel it if you're undercharging and they're repulsed. Really, truly, seriously. I got an email in 2007 from a guy on my email list who said, I see your testimonials, I see your success stories, and I'm having trouble believing any of it because you're charging too little. Because I was charging more than I ever had before, but I was charging too little again. And I was resisting it and fighting it. And it was like, so my money honey just kept sending me person after person until I finally got the message. And this is the interesting thing, is people stopped hiring me at all at the too low price point.
Yeah, right.
And I quadrupled it, and 20 people hired me instantly.
Yeah.
That month, because it felt more real.
Well, the perceived value is higher. It's so funny that you say this. I literally just had this conversation with a coach of mine, and she said, she really kicked my ass, and she said, it's actually selfish for you to offer things at a too low price, because you cannot service these people in the way that they need to be serviced. And then what's going to happen is you're going to take on more people at the lower price, and you are not going to be able to give them the attention they need because you're not charging enough, and you're going to give a crappy service. And I was just like, mind blown.
I agree with her 100%. That's like, that is the philosophy of my business, is I would rather dive really deep and over deliver for just a few people who I love. That same year, 2007, I had 300 clients. Wow. And I ended the year saying, never again, never, ever, ever again. I had to keep notes to remember who some of the people were.
Right.
And I never wanted to do that again. And I never have. And I work with fewer people, but their results are more consistent and much, much, much bigger. And it's just a deep love. I mean, I really do believe that, committing to a coaching relationship is like a marriage, and it's, let go of the people who are not the right fit, or not the easy yeses, don't want to work with you. Let them go with love so that they can find their person, because your people are there and they're coming. It's so much like dating. It's so much like dating. And that's why I have propped underneath my microphone, my book. Like, I have my book, I have my self-study stuff. I do stuff like this because I want to help more people than I want to work with and commit to one-on-one.
Right.
Doing this, and if somebody has a great result, and by the way, if you've been listening to this and you have a breakthrough and something wonderful happens, I want to hear it, because this is why I do, this is why I do this stuff. I want to hear it. It's just it's one more person that I don't have to worry about. Yay. Whether you hire me or not, I want to hear about your breakthroughs. And my best clients are the people who had, did the free stuff and had a breakthrough or a good experience. But there is just a depth of really working with fewer people. A friend of mine calls it problem children. We're all problem children. Whether we paid $5 or $50,000, we are problem children. We are the center of our universe, and we want to be the center of yours too. And how many problem children can you make happy? Honestly, not that many. So you want to shrink it down to a number that you really, really can deliver on your promises. It is my biggest pet peeve in the industry, is people who make promises they don't keep. It hurts all of us.
And I love this way that you're talking about money and energy exchange as well. My best clients have always been, I remember I've made sales without even realizing I was on a sales call. Someone said to me, I didn't even think about it, I had a chat with them, and then they got back to me like a week later and they were like, Talia, I thought about it and I want to hire you. And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah. And it's so great, because they're always the ones that show up and they want to be with you. They want your energy, they want your influence. But when you've got I don't get on sales calls, that's not my business, but another friend of mine's business, when she had this sales team that were just hard sales people, those clients never worked out. They're always the absolute pain in the ass clients. They never paid. They complained about everything. They didn't do the work. They just wanted a miracle. And it was like, it's because you're like forcing them down the hallway, kicking and screaming. If they don't want to be there, they're not going to show up.
That's why I put in that kind of caveat earlier about overcoming sales objections. I think that we should really, let people make a free choice and not pressure them, not manipulate, not overcome their objections. We can look at it and find out what they really want, but trickery, I think it's going to bounce back at you. It's just not, it comes from a place of scarcity. And you want people I like clients who talk you into it yourself, because they're all in, and nobody can say yes if they're not allowed to say no. You can't coerce somebody into being a good client. So those are my values, but I did promise to like break down the steps. So,
yes, let's do that.
okay. So the first step of the process, and I call it financial alchemy, because alchemy is the transmutation of lead into gold. So for my purposes, lead and human experience into spiritual and material gold. And what we want to do is we're going to use like the icky lead and human experience of your life, because you've already done it. You've already been through it. You paid the price. You don't have to do it again. But we're going to milk it and make it work for you because you've already done it and we don't want to waste it. Mm-hmm. So step number one is you're uncovering the root cause of the problem. Why are you unconsciously protecting yourself from something you obviously want, desire, and need? You're not a failure. This is a big one. You're not a failure. You're very, very successful at protecting yourself from what you want. And that could ultimately kill you. But there's always a very good reason or reasons behind it, or you wouldn't be doing it. So we want to uncover the root cause. And the root cause of money problems is never actually money. It's not change your money story, change your life, which is a great slogan, but it doesn't work. It's what money represents. And money represents love, worth, and safety. So you can totally start with like the bad things that you've experienced with money, or your family has experienced with money, or you've seen in the world. And then you want to go behind it to whatever made you feel unsafe or unloved. Anything in your life that made you feel unworthy, not good enough, maybe something you're ashamed of, a failure, maybe a betrayal, maybe an accident, maybe an illness, just the things that crushed your spirit, maybe going back to babyhood, maybe going back generations and things that happened in your family, but you just want to use stuff that doesn't look like it has to do with money is where the gold is.
Right. And are you digging
eating
through this
disorder
with someone?
Use that. Oh, sorry.
Are you digging through this with someone, or is this something you can do on your own?
You can do it on your own. If you do it with somebody else, here's what's necessary. They have to be really safe and trustworthy, and it has to be confidential, and they have to stay quiet. They cannot interfere. They must not try to coach you. They don't know how to do this. And they will distract you and pull you out of it. So unless it's somebody who I have certified and I say, yeah, she can do it or he can do it, just have a silent witness. The value of having a silent witness is, in my experience, having a silent witness who does nothing can allow you to go deeper than you might be able to go on your own, because it's like a safety line. There's a reason we don't go into these things that make us feel unloved, unworthy, and unsafe. Mm-hmm. We also do not want you to go so far that you dissociate or that you traumatize yourself. We just want you to get enough that you're like, stop the world, I want to get off. But not that we cause any kind of damage. Like I coached a woman and I could tell she was dissociating and I had to pull her back because that's too much. And you don't need to harm yourself to do this. You just need enough evidence that you feel like. I attract a lot of law of attraction people, and I love law of attraction people. And what I want you to do is I want you to take off all of your law of attraction and positive thinking. Just take it off like a hat temporarily and put on the victim hat. I'm being your coach saying you have full permission to be a victim right now because it's going to give you all this power. There is your victim experience. It's not a waste. It happened for a reason. It's not your fault, but we want to use it. And by the way, if you want to make it your fault just to feel worse, you can do that too. It's a temporary thing that we're doing. It's like a slingshot that creates the tension and lights up the neurology so we can catapult you over to the other side and make a real change that lasts, that isn't just some fun intellectual exercise that does nothing. We really, really, really want to change your life and have it be positive and have it last, but we're going in the wrong direction first. Mm-hmm. All the stuff that shouldn't be there, we are like sucking out the poison by bringing it out. And so, yeah, I believe our victim experiences are sacred and they have power, but they kind of feel heavy and sinking, maybe cold and damp, but they have power. So we want to go into wherever that energy is, wherever the hurt is, and we want to use it. You're like being a lawyer in the court of life, building a case against your life about this sucks. And then when we get to enough that you're just motivated, then we jump to step 2. I think step 1, that's the biggest. Step 2, but you can only move on to the next step when you complete the one before. So now step 2, when it's like, ugh, this is horrible. Maybe I'm in tears, extra point for tears, not necessary, but extra credit for the overachievers who are listening. Now we want to imagine that the root cause, that there's a person behind it. Like there's a guy or a woman or a monster who has been pulling the strings behind every horrible thing that has ever happened to you, every bad experience that's ever happened to you, because he hates you and he gets off on your pain. And maybe the worst thing you've ever said to yourself, he whispers in your ear very, very sneakily in your own voice, so it sounds like you, but it's not. We want to make it separate from you, and we want to make it not your parents. Even if your parents were monstrous, we're going to say the monster used your parents to hurt you or whoever else hurt you. But we want it to feel real, and maybe it's a guy, maybe it's a woman, maybe, but you just flesh it out so that you have the same gut reaction that I had to the biker, that this cannot exist. And when you look at it and you imagine that's money, I promise you, your whole financial situation is suddenly going to make sense. Oh, no wonder. And then you have to make a decision to get rid of it. It's like Highlander, there can only be one. The reason, the purpose for the money monster is to destroy you unless you get rid of it. It's like it is the personification of your death wish. So we're saying everything that does not get to exist in my life experiences in you, and we're getting rid of you. And you get rid of it by any means necessary. You can go full on ballistic, violent. It's imagination. It is that rising energy. Like I was saying, victim is kind of heavy and damp. This is like fire rising. It's, the Durga, the Kali, the sacred warrior eradicating ignorance and everything that's wrong in the world. And you just want to make sure that it's gone completely. No energetic traces, no bloody bits. It's gone. You've created a vacuum. That's step number 3. Step number 4 is you meet your money honey. And when everything is gone, when the monster is completely gone, all that remains is love. And that's what the money honey feels like. But we call him or her or them money because that's the area of life that needs our love and healing in the moment. But it's way, 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 way more than money. It's really our relationship with life. And your money honey knows that, but plays along. And then you have a conversation with your money honey. And a great question to begin with is what I began with is, what do you need from me so you can stay with me? Which is not, what do you need from me so you can love me? The love is there. But you're the gatekeeper. And then the final step is you take some kind of concrete measurable action. And your money honey will let you know. If you just throw out ideas, and your money honey is going to be like, no, yes. And you go for the yes. and you take the action. It's really, really important that you take the action, because you are demonstrating to yourself that the relationship has changed, that you're committed to the relationship. You can't really trust your money, honey, if you can't trust yourself, and you have to keep your word to trust yourself. And that's when things start to happen. And maybe not immediately, and sometimes immediately. I can never predict what will happen or how long it'll take. I have a lot of stories of things, really ridiculous things happening very quickly. It doesn't have to happen quickly, because really, truly, honestly, what this is really about is your lifetime. I just heard from a client from 2007 who was on the cover of a newspaper, big musical concert. She's got this, she is the spiritual musician. Her stuff is divine. Her name is Athena Burke, if you want to check her out. And when I coached her way back in the beginning, she was her circumstances, because I was still, this was a long time ago, and I've been doing it for years, but not as many years. Mm-hmm. So she came in with these circumstances of mountains of debt, a really unhappy divorce, children, very dramatic circumstances. And yet she wants to hire me. And I'm like, I can't take her money. I don't want to hurt her. And I heard this voice saying, just be quiet and treat her like an adult. Which is a really big part of, we don't cut our fees to treat people like they're helpless, because that's a money monster thing. Like, you're not good enough, you can't do it, is just not a message that is appropriate for me to give anybody. So I just said, okay. And I coached her, and she had one of the most horrific monsters. I don't remember many people's monsters, but I remember some of the events that led to her monster. Some of those things, it was just really dramatic. And then she had this money honey, and we kept coaching. And within a very short period of time, really interesting things started to happen. First, she got a call from a mortgage company offering to lower her payments and pay off her credit card debt. Like, how
out of the blue.
Does that happen? Right?
Yeah, what?
And in a really short period of time, because she was one of those, very spiritual types who's charging $100 an hour for her very unique gifts that people want. And she shifted, because I was coaching her, both on the money honey, but also on her business model. She shifted to packages, and pretty soon she had $10,000 packages. So she was making tens of thousands of dollars a month, and flying down to Miami for money moons. That's what she called it, with her money honey, these spiritual money moons. And then her money honey had her pivot and stop coaching and focus on the music. And she's just been all these years, one step ahead of the other, always in relationship with her money honey, slaying monsters every time they come up, and getting into a deeper relationship with her money honey. And so she's on my mind, because I'm seeing, her music career is taking off, and she's this person who still keeps in that constant relationship with her money honey, one step in front of the other, not just I love you and forgetting about it for decades until things get really bad. And it's also been a comfort to her during really challenging life experiences. So I just love hearing from her periodically, like, about what her money honey said to her, and how it's working out. And I don't even remember why I got on that tangent. It was just came into me.
Yeah. We were talking about the steps, and you were talking about how you were, yeah.
Yeah, the action. You just keep the step 5 and 6 is just something you keep doing over and over and over and over again. And then if it dries up and you don't trust your money honey anymore, or you're seeing your results are kind of drying up, then I would say look for a new monster. And one of the reasons I love Athena is this is why she came to mind. I go off on these tangents and then I forget why until the music comes back again. I was coaching a number of people and training them in what I do at the time. And everybody was having breakthroughs, but hers were really dramatic, like more dramatic than the others. And I asked her why. And she told me that she had slayed her monster and come up with a new money honey like 17 times. And I'd only coached her for 2 of them. And that was when I learned that, and you go at your own pace. I went 7 years before I had to do it again.
Yeah, right.
And now I do it more frequently because pandemic,
Right. Yeah, totally.
But what I got from that is slaying the monster a new time has its own inherent value. It can rejuvenate the relationship. You can have a deeper, more immediate relationship with your money honey. When your money honey wants to evolve, one of the ways that you get to evolve it is by slaying the monster and coming up with this newer relationship with money who may look the same and may look different, but feels deeper, feels realer. And it was that willingness to do it again that gave her this added momentum. So it's not this silver bullet, do this once and I'm going to change your DNA. And I see people say, I'm going to change your DNA and your programming and all that kind of stuff. And then you'll never have a challenge again in your life, which is nonsense. We all know that isn't how life works. Mm-hmm. But what I want you to have is I want you to have a tool that you can really, really use so that you not only get to make more money, but you get to keep more money. Because I've also coached clients who have come into millions of dollars, and that brings up stuff too. Mm-hmm. And we don't want to. I've coached people who are great at making money and even better at getting rid of it. So we don't want you to have a money monster reason to get rid of it. I was just talking to this guy who inherited a huge amount of money and blew it. And that is the norm, not the exception. There's a whole school of psychology on the negative effects of instant wealth. So what we want to do is we want you to, wherever you are on your journey, get a great relationship with money. And then when challenges come up, you can look at it cuddling on the couch with your money honey, looking at the situation, discussing it. And if you need to change your money honey and slay a new monster, you will get new information each time you do it.
I love this. This has been so incredibly helpful. I feel like there's so many really, really tangible tips that we can take and implement right away. And I'm already kind of imagining my money honey. It is really interesting though. I definitely remember when my mindset shifted, and it wasn't as clean cut as yours, but when it shifted and I started saying, like, realizing that money wasn't my number one motivator, but that I still loved money. And I still definitely believed that money brought me happiness. And, all these people say, oh, money doesn't buy happiness. No, money doesn't buy affection, but money can make you happy. It makes you very comfortable. Is it the be all end all? No, of course not. Because I think that other people value things above money, but doesn't mean we don't love money as well.
Well, there's an interesting thing that can happen. And it's why we see people, because making money definitely releases a lot of pleasure in our body. Mm-hmm. And what can happen is it can then become an addiction, so that when we see people who have millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and it's still not enough, and they're ruining the planet or hurting people. Yeah. And to me, that is just a different version of the money monster. I think I was talking about, love, lifestyle, and legacy. So we want a partner who wants to save the world with us. And we want to feel so filled that we aren't buying things unconsciously to compensate. Can money buy happiness? No, but the lack of money can cause a lot of misery.
Yes. And
So,
stress. Oh my goodness.
oh my God, and stress. And by the way, stress when you have hundreds of millions of dollars too. People without money think it goes away. It just shifts. So what you really want to do is you want to have a safe, loving, worthy relationship with money where it can be your partner in service of what really does make human beings happy, which is, again, and I'm going to bring out my 3 L words: love, lifestyle, and legacy. Those are the 3 things that I believe do make human beings happy.
Morgana, this has been so helpful. I love the idea of seeing money as a lover. If people listening want to find out a little bit more about you, how can they do that? How can they find out more about your coaching and your programs?
Just go to morganarae.com. It's really easy. It's my name, like you see, just one word.com. And my website, that's like the mothership. There's just loads of resources for you to go into. I've got my free 4-part video series. I've got my money love quiz, which is a great place to figure out where to start by finding out where you are in the beginning. And by the way, the quiz is like easy, it's pain-free, and it's quick, but it gives me information about where you are so that I can suggest your next step appropriate to where you are. And also loads and loads of videos and articles on my blog. And if you want to coach with me, that's where you can find my different coaching programs and reach out to me, and we can find out what will work best for you.
Perfect. Thank you. And for anyone listening, you can find all the links mentioned in this episode at rebellove.com/EP42. Morgana, thank you so much for being here. It has been an absolute pleasure. I feel like there's so many more amazing stories that you have up your sleeve. So thank you for sharing a fraction of those with us today.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Mwah.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Rebel Love Podcast, the podcast about love, sex, relationships, and money. If you like this episode, please support us by subscribing and leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. And find all the details of this episode and more at rebellove.com/podcast.